All right, hi everybody. I'm Dave, as you know, and I'm here with Patty Cala. She's from Alternative Family Services. They serve the greater Bay Area and Northern California. It seems they have offices in Oakland, Pleasanton, San Francisco, San Rafael, Vallejo, and Sacramento. Did I miss anywhere?
Did you say Santa Rosa?
Ooh, I missed Santa Rosa.
Sonoma County?
I missed Santa Rosa. My notes. I took my notes in a kind of a hurry last night before I went to bed. So
That's okay.
So, before we get into what you do, what is the mission of Alternative Family Services more broadly?
So we're a foster family agency, and our mission is to help vulnerable children and their families to settle and have a home-like experience.
Great. And you work out of the San Francisco office.
I work out of the San Rafael office, and
gotcha.
it's a small program in San Rafael.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. And working with teenagers in any capacity for any reason can probably be a challenge. I'm sure I was a challenging teenager just to my parents. But the problems teenagers face in foster care are surely unique. Can you talk about some of those specific issues and maybe things that people might not think of or things that might be surprising to people?
Sure. So most kids in foster come in when they're younger, and it's from some sort of physical, sexual abuse. Neglect is probably the number one reason kids come into out of home. But along with that type of neglect, also see a lot of trauma in the foster care system. So the kids are normal, like your next door neighbor or your own kid, but they also have this of trauma, and now they're also in a home that's not what they're used to. So statistics across you see a lot of drug abuse, pregnancy, running away, not finishing high school and not going on to college. So kids are kind of if they leave the system because they're not capable of making a living wage, and they're making like crazy decisions. So the program that I run, the Living Program, which is the umbrella program, it's offered through state in every county. And it's a federally funded program. The TAP program is to help these young people learn to live on their own. So to make that transition to being an adult.
And you're the director.
Marin,
you're the director for this transition age youth services. Is this for all of AFS?
I am the regional director for AFS, so any teenage questions come through me. The program that we run are specific to Marin. We'll be widening a housing program for 18 to 21 years throughout our locations.
So that program that's for young adults. It's probably I'm assuming that's sort of a transition out of foster care and into possibly living on their own, living with roommates, wherever they land.
So there's a couple of things. The independent living program in foster care. So that it starts at 16 and come through when they are aging out of foster care. A few years ago, California, along with several other states, that kids can opt to stay in foster care with birthday. It was a choice that kids can make. And so it is within the 18 to 21-year-old range. They're still dependents, but they have a choice of living with I'm going to still use the word foster parent because that's what most people know. But the new term is resource family. But I'll use foster parents because I think it's what we're used to. So they can stay with their foster parents. They can live in a housing that's run through agencies like ours, where they have intimate, but they have a caseworker that's managing, going on with them. Or they can get their foster care dollar directly to them, and they can pay rent, although it's only a little over $1,000, so that it's not getting them much. But they could rent a room, or they could use it for term expenses or something like that. So it gives them some options. Once a kid turns 1, there is a housing program called Transit Placement Plus, or THP Plus, for that older group of kids, and that just 4 months of housing, subsidized housing, and in this last budget, some put in money for it to extend to 36 months. So I'd be in that program for 3 years or up until 25. So it gives a young person a little time to cook and to not kind of kooky, which is what we see in teenagers. Really helpful.
That's great, and I imagine that some of the kids end up using the money you talked about for expenses during college or community college.
Right. And that's really great. That extension from 18 to 21 was specifically that could have a safety net and start the college process, or vocational, and just give them that just little extra help to on their own.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of 18
because it's expensive to live.
Oh, it is. Go
ahead.
Oh, it is. I live in San Jose. It's expensive to live. That is correct.
It's crazy.
And that's a lot of young people are still with their parents from 18 to 21 too, so it makes a little bit of sense that that the foster system might have, some resources there. I wanted to sort of ask about, because I noticed on your on the Facebook, there was some stuff about queer youth, and our audience, there's a lot of LGBTQ plus people. I'm gay myself, and I'm just, are there like a disproportionate number of queer teenagers in foster care? And if so, like, why do you think that would be the case in a place like the Bay Area, where, we're kind of ahead of the curve on like acceptance of LGBTQ plus people?
So I don't know if there's disproportionate. I think it kind of, it's just sort of what the population is. So I don't think more foster youth that are LGBTQ plus, but we do a lot of work with how to young people who are maybe afraid to come out, or and often in my program and in my work with youth, we're not their social workers, and we're not there. So sometimes we're kind of a safe landing if they want to kind of grow a little bit and talk about it, and we'll be, see what reactions they're getting. And so sometimes we're the people that talking to about, how do I do this? What do you think my foster parents would think? And not all foster parents are cool with it. And so, we're helping to work with the social workers to find a placement so that youth can come out their authentic self.
Well, you just answered my next question. I was going to ask if have you dealt with foster parents who are not, as you said, cool with it, and you answered the question in the affirmative. That must be hard for actually everybody involved, the social workers.
Yeah, I mean,
the teenagers, even the foster parents. It's not like, people, I have my own opinions about that because I'm gay myself and I don't like it when people don't like me. But it must also be hard for the foster parent because they have their own views, and maybe I'm trying to stick up for them too. Maybe I'm trying to both sides this too much. It's hard for the kids and hard for the social workers, and I'm not too sympathetic.
I think it's hard for everybody because you don't want to, say mostly see foster parents who struggle with religious background, and so you're trying to be, ending of where they're coming from and not tell them they're wrong. Also helping the youth feel like they're not wrong either. It's just a bad placement.
Yeah.
Just not a good fit. And that happens a lot. There's lots of young people where it's just not a good fit. And so we try to words that are more like that so that it's more normal where, the fit isn't right. You could be somebody who had a young girl who I thought her outfits were the cutest thing, more like ripped jeans, but had like a decal on or a pat on, Doc Martens. And her foster parents just thought, take this girl shopping and make her look right. And I just felt like, ooh, can you not be so judgy? And so it was helping the foster parent accept, hey, this is different than how you dress, but it's perfectly appropriate for a 16-year-old to dress like that. Sometimes our work is helping people come together and where the other person's coming from, or say this is not a good fit. And actually that young girl moved from that home to somebody who was a better.
Oh, that part of your job is probably quite hard too. Like when you, like, especially when one party, like, I just imagine a scenario where one party of the other likes the other party, but then there's like it isn't maybe mutual, or there's some conflict just coming from one side where like you're you're in a position where it's just very hard for you or whoever the contact is when it's like when the people liking each other or whatever isn't mutual. That must be like really difficult to deal with.
Well, I think it's just like any relationship. It's like sometimes people, unbalanced way, and so you have to kind of figure out how to help get together and not hurt each other's feelings. A big part of we do program is teaching kids to not just be adults, but how to have good adult relationships. And we call it the Connections Project, and it's helping young people find people, the tribe, basically. What adults in your life or people have your back, and so it's teaching things that maybe my mother was teaching this to me when I was younger, that, go to somebody's house for dinner. If you can't afford to bring something, then you ought to do the dishes, or you take garbage out or something. So teaching give and take in relationships that can transfer over to romantic relationships, to job, to relationships with your landlord. And that's been really successful. Not only to have kids have adults that they count on, but also, what's an appropriate way to talk to your boss?
Huh. It's funny you mentioned dinner. If I tried to lift a finger and if I was at dinner at my mother's house, she would not be happy. She'd be like, no, you sit there. I have it. She would, like, if anybody comes over and they try to lift a finger to help her with anything, she's like, no, you are the guest. But that's not everybody. And some people,
that's a way too.
Yeah. Some people, that's not everybody. And some people do appreciate, like, if you do the dishes or you chop some onions or something while they're cooking. And offering certainly is a good thing. I just thought that was funny.
But your mom taught you how to be a good host.
Yes.
So, you know,
yes,
my
in that
guess
case.
is that, yeah. So it's the same thing. It's just all different scenarios because, you know, it's like, how do you write a thank you note? And now it's like, how do you write a thank you text is really what it is. But my 18-year-old son just graduated from high school. We had to teach him how to write a thank you note. He had written them in the past, but they were, you know, more childish than what he do this time. And he didn't. So kids often don't know how to do that or how to then address the envelope to send it. So it's all those kind of things that take for granted. Like how do you order at a restaurant that isn't McDonald's? Why would you waste your money tipping a server? So it's, we teach a lot of these skills that now we kind of learned in our family by sort of osmosis, but these kids maybe, you know, they grew up in kind of broken families. They never went to I've had kids that never went to a restaurant. And so, you know, they don't know how to behave or how to order or what, you know, how to tip.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. You bring that up because it's something like most people probably don't think about. They don't think about the struggles of, you know, just kind of day-to-day stuff that if you have, you know, you bounce from place to place and then you end up in foster care or whatever the situation is. Yeah, you don't learn about going to a restaurant. You don't learn about nobody teaches you how to pump gas or how to ride a bike or any of these things. And, you know, I don't think, like, you know, until you brought up the thing about the restaurant, I just never would have thought about that. That it's just like all these these little things that they're actually not little. They're actually important, even if they're not important on their own. When the totality of them certainly is important because you don't know how to act on a date then, and then you know you really like somebody who might have otherwise really liked you, but then you act the fool on the date, not because you're mean or a bad person, but because you just don't have the life experience, and then you miss out on the second date or whatever it is. You know, in a job interview, you don't know how to be able to job interview. Maybe you'd be perfectly good at the job, but you blow the interview because you just don't know, because you never had a parent talk about their own job interview and maybe even vent about a crappy job interview they had. Just all these things that like that I had in my life that I guess I just never even think about.
And that so we kind of act as mentors to them, to help them learn as many of those kind of skills and scenarios as we can teach them. And we have kids coming back years later asking things like, what's that day where you take this form and then they send you money back? And I'm like, you mean like taxes?
It's tax time. Oh no.
Yeah, but you know, they're kind of describing this thing that you're kind of, it's like doing a little puzzle, like what the heck are they talking about? But you know, I think I've been around for, I'm going in 29 years doing this work, so I have kids who are in their 40s, and some, you know, they're not asking that so much, but I had a young woman ask not that long ago when she was in her 30s, how do you buy a house? She saved up enough money that she thought she had a down payment to buy a house, and she actually did. She had enough money saved to be able to buy her own house and a rental property.
Whoa.
Nanny for so many years, she was able to sock a bunch of money because she didn't have to have a car, she didn't have rent, and she got a paycheck. So she just all into the bank money to do that. So the only time I had a foster kid call me to ask how do you buy a house, but it's her mother had never bought a house, so real mother, and she wasn't in contact anymore with her foster mom, so she called me. And she bought both of those properties.
Well, it's a good thing she came to you and didn't get scammed by somebody, right?
Right. Yes, I was really happy that, because they often, man, they buy cars they can't afford. That's for sure.
I mean, everybody buys cars they can't afford.
Yes. But these guys really can't afford it.
I mean, I don't even have a car. I just take the train everywhere. That's one of the advantages of living in the city, but.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Well, hey, this has been really interesting, and I think that I think my audience is really going to like this. Patty Cala, she's the director for Transition Age Youth Services for the Alternative Family Services Organization. That's AFSforkids.org, and you're for the is that the North Bay, the North Bay region?
Yes.
Yeah. Great, and you can also find them on Twitter. I followed you on Twitter, or I followed the organization on Twitter. That's AFS for Kids on Twitter. And they also have a Facebook page, which is where I found most of the information about the organization. The organization posts regularly. They have a good social media person. So thank you for taking the time. It's really, these are issues we don't cover enough. Like on our local news show, we're usually talking about that tower that's going to fall over in San Francisco.
Oh. That's pretty dramatic. So,
and we do talk. We touch on like homelessness and poverty and the big gap here in the Bay Area. But we definitely don't really touch on these issues. So it was really good to talk to you, and it was nice to meet you as well.
And thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.